What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look at this Aerith slash Jenova theory that's been going around online. So, look, I first actually saw this when kind of researching just the ending of this game, right? I was coming to my own opinions, and I was going on Reddit, I was going on YouTube, and there's actually like one Reddit thread, and there was hundreds of comments, and one of them, it wasn't even a lot, but there was one or two people saying, what if this, Aerith Jenova thing, and I've seen other content creators talk about it, so I think it's become like a thing. I think it is incredibly interesting and fascinating, and I've said even in comments of my own videos, and I just want to say now, right, to kind of get it out of the way early, I absolutely respect, if that's what you think. I think it is a super cool theory. I think the potential for what it could do, to like Cloud at the end, I mean, it would be nuts, and it would also get us, the audience, and we're going to talk about why I think it makes sense and the themes there and what it would do, as an impact. But I will say this. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm going to try to explain a little bit why, okay? So, firstly, I want to look at where this originated from, and I think it's one specific scene, right? Now, in my own personal belief, I don't think the end, the very heavy CG, looking ending where Cloud says goodbye to Aerith, they take off, right? I do not think that is Jenova under any circumstance. Even if I believe the theory and the other scene that we'll talk about, I do not believe the Aerith that was talking at the end and Pet Red 13, right? I do not think that was Jenova, like, impersonating her, okay? And honestly, not even just because, like, I saw one argument being, well, Red senses her, right? Now, could Jenova be powerful enough where Red could get confused, right? And I think the answer is actually yes to that, but the biggest thing for me is, like, that feels like Aerith to me. Also, just kind of the mood and even the song, No Promises to Keep, right, playing as the plane leaves and Aerith says goodbye. It doesn't feel like that's a misdirect or deception, literally at all. To me, honestly, at all. And even how she acts, like when she says, then I'll send up smoke, and, like she says it like that, right? Like a little, like very bubbly in her own personality. I believe that is her. Even when, she says, like, or Cloud says, you're going to be okay getting home, and, what if I said I wasn't? Like, that is very much in reference to, and I'm not saying Jenova wouldn't be able to do it, but I just feel that feels like Aerith, and I really feel that is Aerith. Whether it's the live stream Aerith or a different timeline, that we've talked about in past videos, I do not think that's Jenova, okay? However, we do need to talk about the scene that got people talking about it, and that is the scene right before it. Well, really, two scenes before it. So, you have them sitting there, and you skip the burial. Now, as I've talked about in past videos, I think the burial did happen, and Cloud blocked it out, right? Like, I do think he lowered her in the water, but then, static or whatever, and he just doesn't remember doing it. Okay, so they're sitting there. Barrett comes up. He asks, or he says, like, we can't stay here, like, we gotta go. He says, yep, sounds good. Very, very, like, it doesn't mix with the energy that everybody else is giving off. He has his static hit. Now, okay, that alone, right, the static is interesting. In terms of me saying, okay, why I don't believe it, I think it's just kind of par for the course. Like, it's what's been happening. He is trying to deflect what really happened in that timeline where Aerith is dead. He's happy about it even. He's saying, everything's good for me. And then he gets hit with the actual, memory of what happened. Aerith dies. Now he looks up, and who is there but Aerith? So Aerith is there. The two things is, number one, she doesn't act like herself. And I do think that's true. At least it's true to some extent. Now, you could argue, and I actually would argue myself, what is she supposed to do? Like, it's a somber experience. It's a somber moment. Is she supposed to crack a joke? Is she supposed to, like, what is she supposed to do? I don't know the answer to that. But I will say, I will absolutely give people, is she acting like herself? No, like, she doesn't look evil or anything, but she's very quiet, and she doesn't have as bubbly of a personality. Now, it could be because of the circumstances, right? She knows what they're going through, but she definitely doesn't act like herself. The other thing that I absolutely will give people, okay? This does make me question it, but I got to stick on my theory that it's not the case, okay? But why people have latched onto it so heavily is the music in the background. So what I want to do, let's just watch this scene. When he looks up, he sees Aerith, but I want you to focus specifically on the music that's playing.
I'll see you off.
Okay, so it is very dark and twisted. I might argue that it, again, is trying to match the tone. I gotta be honest, in terms of defending my stance and going against the Jenova theory, that would be the hardest one of anything to defend, to say, you know, I have like a great counterpoint to it. I really don't. I think it is a great point that people pointed out. Not only does she not act like herself, and it is just a weird situation and all, but that music literally sounds like a twisted theme. It sounds twisted. And like, what else are you supposed to read into? Like, is something not as it seems? And that could be the case. I have also seen, I do want to highlight this before I talk about where this could go in the impact, right? Right after, you get the Rufus scene, which is also talking about manipulation. And it's also showing a Sephiroth clone and, you know, all that jazz and the static and whatnot. So it's very similar, even thematically, you know, to what we just got. And I never actually really thought of it. I felt like, well, they're just kind of breaking it up. I mean, this could be the defense, right? They're just throwing it in because those are important characters. The conflict between Wu-Tai and Shinra is going to be important for the third game. You do have to have some sort of resolution, maybe, of those two in this game, so you throw that scene in. Did it make the most sense to throw it in right there? Maybe not, but if the point was to be, hey, something's going on with this Aerith, and then also we're going to show you a scene where they talk about manipulation, and they talk about deception, and they do it right after the Cloud Aerith thing, I could understand it. I can understand if that was like their hints, you know, they're winking at us saying, hey, like, did you notice anything about that past scene? Because Jenova is able to do this stuff. Now, in terms of the lore and, again, where this is going, now here's the thing. I don't want to spoil part 3, or I don't want to spoil, I guess I should say, the ending of the story, right? Say like the original game, because I think there are a lot of people that played part 1 and part 2 here, Remake and Rebirth, and have never played the original. So I'm going to try very hard to not spoil things so you can still follow me through, okay? But here's what we do know about Jenova that is not a spoiler, right? She can take the form, or she can manipulate loved ones, enemies, anyone really, right? So loved ones is very, very important. We know this about in terms of the history with the Cetra and all this stuff. So this is not, you know, some revolutionary thing. But it's important to remember that Jenova can basically do this deception, manipulation thing with loved ones. And what's Aerith? You know, she is a character that is loved by this cast. If the point is to break Cloud down, and here's the thing, we always talk about Sephiroth, right? Like his plan, he clearly has some sort of knowledge of what originally happened, and we've said this before, right? Aerith does too. They're playing 4D chess against each other the entirety of Rebirth, right? They both know stuff, and they're trying their long game. What is their long game to defeat each other, okay? The long game to defeat the good guys is to break Cloud down, but to do it differently and to actually accomplish it versus the original that we will not get too much into, right? But the goal is they need to Sephiroth needs to fully break him down. And if it goes exactly how it went in the original, and you don't need a spoiler to tell you this, the good guys win. Now, I won't say how it happens, but the good guys win, as they most often do, okay? So if the plan is to do it differently, you need a different tactic. And we've already seen in this game, an early tactic is to try to get Cloud to turn on Tifa. Because, again, without spoiling, Tifa is pretty important to the end game of Cloud, right? Like, Tifa is actually crucial. If you don't have Tifa, good guys probably don't win this thing, right? So the new tactic is, well, I'm going to break your mind down a little bit differently. In fact, this time we're going to go after someone you really care about, this other part of this love triangle, and we're going to see if I can get you to turn on her. Because if you turn on her, I think I'm going to win. And that's, I think, generally the plan, at least in the beginning parts of the game. Okay, now if it fails, they could go back to that tactic or whatever, but I guess my point being, things do have to change. You can't literally follow what happens in the original if you're the bad guys, because it's like, well, we lost, you know what I mean? And if Sephiroth knows, even to a degree, of what originally happened, let's say, I mean, there's different timelines, so it's not literally like he knows a past self or whatever. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. But if he knows anything, which he does, he 100% does, if he knows what happens in the original, then he knows that it can't go the same way. So, well, what's a tactic here? Well, if there's some manipulation involved and we can get Cloud to believe that Aerith is alive when she actually isn't, then we might win. And really, I think to Cloud as a character, that is kind of where it starts and ends, right? So the long game, if the Jenova theory is true, is it's a tactic to break Cloud down using the idea that Aerith is dead, but he believes she's alive, and she's going to reinforce that in him. She will keep appearing to him as a... Now, she won't say anything, right? And here's the thing. Even normal Aerith might not say things. This is actually why it's so tricky and actually why it's so smart, even if it's true, right? Like, I mean, I really like the idea, and there's one other part to it that I'm going to get to in just a second. But from Cloud as a character, I really like the idea of one of his closest, you know, a person that he genuinely loves, to be messing with him. And even the real Aerith, if I'm right, say my theory and what we've talked about in past videos, she's communicating, maybe she's using the live stream, maybe she's using a version of herself that's alive in a different timeline, which I think that's what's going to happen, okay? But even if she does that, she still can't really say much, I believe, because she's got to be careful about his mental state. There's been numerous times in Remake and Rebirth where they've wanted, whether it's Tifa, whether it's Aerith, whether it's anybody, they've really wanted to like straighten Cloud out on certain events, and they haven't. And a big reason why they didn't is because they're like, this guy's lost it. But I mean, I think from Aerith's point of view, you have to play the long game. And this is where I would come in with my anti thing, right? If you're Aerith and this is your long plan, even if you did survive in a different timeline, which I believe, you got to get to the core of Cloud. In fact, she tells him that. Don't blame yourself. Whatever happens, don't blame yourself. And she tells him, don't focus on Sephiroth, focus on you, the real you, the one I've been trying to find this whole time. Her long game is to break through and make sure that Cloud is okay. So, I guess, again, back on the Jenova side, if that is the case, it would be hard for even a real Aerith to tell him what truly is going on. Even if he says, hey, is this Jenova messing with me? And it's genuinely Aerith and she's genuinely trying to talk him down, she can only say so much because it's like, ultimately, she did die. She did die in that timeline. He thinks she's alive. She's got to be careful to not break his mind. And so I think that would help I think that would help both sides, right? Because if it's a Jenova thing, it actually makes her continue to look more sketchy, even if it's the real her. What's she going to do? She can't come out and say it, right? Because she's got to be careful about his mental state. So the last part of it, why I think it would be a good impact, is not just on Cloud, is on us, right? This is the ultimate, I mean, I just mentioned 4D chess between, you know, Aerith and Sephiroth. What about us, the players? This would be the biggest kind of 4D chess move from developers to us, because we've talked about this before, right? The other characters, they're experiencing loss, right? They all actually go through their own trial where they experience their past loss, and they all deal with it differently. But a big part of this game is like learning to accept, and you're going to deal with it different ways, but like these things did happen. Who's the one person that did not experience a trial? Is Cloud. That was very much on purpose, okay? Now you get to the ending of the game, and now you get to this in-between period, these 4 years in between part 2 and part 3. Us, the audience, we are also, in a way, Cloud. Maybe not fully, but we are partially, you know, the main character. If we believe that Aerith is alive, then when the rug is pulled out from under us, that, no, this was a deception, Cloud has not gone through, he's not accepted this, other people have, he needs to get through this, and he's not. It's not just that. Now, that's very impactful for Cloud, and that's very impactful for the whole group, because there's going to be, like, rifts, you know, amongst them because of that. What about us, the players? We are also experiencing the same thing as Cloud. We're also, say me, who believes Aerith is alive in a different timeline, right? And I've gone through all these theories that, but I do believe she's going to die in the end, all the Aeriths, okay? But for right now, I believe she's alive. Well, for the people that are backing that so much, or say the people that want Aerith to actually live, at the ending of part 3, is there a world where Aerith survives and is okay? I think there's a good amount of people that want that, okay? Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I think there's people that want it. Imagine selling those people on that idea for years, that because this Aerith is still around and this Aerith is still talking to him and all this stuff, she is still okay. And eventually, she will be okay at the end of the game. Now imagine pulling the rug from those people and saying that was a ploy. That was trying to get Cloud to break down. He needs to get through her loss, and so do you, the player. That is genius. I really love that idea, that you're messing with people really going through the same thing as Cloud is. You talk about Cloud's mental state and not being able to accept Aerith is gone. If it's true that she is gone and that's Jenova, then we ourselves are falling for this ploy just like Cloud is. Cloud, smiling, he's having fun when everybody's mourning her freaking death. He acts like it never happened because to him it didn't. Well, some of us, or maybe like parts of us, we also believe that. So what happens when that's pulled from us as well? Then we experience the same thing Cloud does. So I think that is really, beyond anything, it's cool. I mean, look, it's a video game, right? This is lore. I mean, I find it personally interesting. Maybe not everybody does. I just find it genuinely cool. And I think if they were to do that path, that would be really shocking to me and would be really awesome. Now, okay, final part to this, are they doing it? I really would believe no. And I would believe no. I mean, look, we talked about the ending, right? The more cinematic ending. Why would, this is a question. This is not like an aggressive kind of question. This is a genuine question. Why would Aerith show up, say, as Jenova, the scene before, and then when they go outside, they fix the plane, and then they leave? Why would that be? Is that the fake? Is that also Jenova, or is that the real one? I believe it's the real one for the reasons I said in the beginning of this video. If it's still Jenova, I don't really buy that. I don't really know why that would be Jenova acting as Aerith in that situation. I also would go back to my strongest theories, right? That would go back to my ending explain video. I believe in my soul, and there's no convincing me otherwise, that he created a timeline that Aerith lived. Regardless if the Aeriths that are talking to him are from that timeline, that doesn't matter. I believe that she is alive in a different, and I've went through the reasons in that ending explained. The rainbow, it's the exact same thing that happens when fate is breached. When you make a major decision like that in this universe, you change the outcome and a different, timeline is spawned. They explain it. They show it with Zack. That is not a dream. That's not Aerith's dream. That is a timeline. Okay, and again, we've gone through kind of the reasons why. I believe in all of that stuff very much so. So I guess my main counter to the Jenova thing is I think Aerith is alive in a different universe. I also think she's in the live stream. The live stream kind of goes into all the universes, so it's possible the live stream version is also part of the alive version. Like, there can be some mix-ups there, right? But say the Aerith that told Cloud it's okay. Say the Aerith that when Cloud said, hey, Aerith, wake up, and she wakes up. If that's live stream Aerith, and she's a good person, and she's trying to mentally help him get back, or, just mentally make it so that he doesn't fall apart, right? Why would Jenova be able to sneak in, right? Like, why wouldn't the live stream Aerith be the one that was there? Now, yes, she doesn't act like herself, and it's a more somber, kind of experience or sequence of events, but maybe that's the reason she's not herself, right? She's not bubbly. She does smile. She smiles at him, and then she also smiles when Tifa stands up. Now, Tifa can't see her, but she is smiling, so why does she smile? Now, if it's Jenova, it's actually very creepy. And I have seen people say, if it's Jenova who touches Red, that's also very creepy, because it's like, ooh, you have the cells as well. I mean, it can be downright, it can be like weird if that's the case. And again, I think that would be really, really awesome, but I really believe that is just Aerith. Whether it's live stream Aerith, or whether it's an alternate timeline, or if those two are more connected than I think they are, right? I think it's that versus Jenova. And I think it's that for the reasons we've talked about. When Aerith is telling him, like, Cloud, it's okay, that's not, to me, that's not Jenova. That's Aerith saying that. Livestream it, the dead Aerith potentially saying it, but not Jenova. So I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense? Yes, because Jenova is capable of doing something like that. It would be something new. It would be something kind of dynamic. It would mess with Cloud. It would also mess with the audience. There's plenty of reasons to do it. But from what they showed us, they focused on the timelines. They focused on alternate versions of people and people being sent to different like portals. Zack does it, Cloud does it, right? They showed and focused on that so much, and that was really Zack's entire freaking story of this game. Why do that? Because like if you make Aerith Jenova at the end, you've ignored all of the timelines. I believe that, right? Because you can't have the timeline stuff happening while also having this fake Jenova thing going on. You got to pick one. And they spent so much time talking about the timelines. And I believe, again, like when he blocks Sephiroth's sword, the color is around. I mean, like, you know, again, we've broken this down. He does create a timeline where he blocks. It's not in his head. I really do not believe it's in his head. So you can't have that happen while also saying, well, none of that happened. You know, there is no timelines, and that is just Jenova now messing with him. I don't think so. So that's kind of where I want to leave it. There's not much more to say. Maybe there'll be hints in like the trailer in 2-3 years for part 3, and we will definitely talk about it again there. But no, I got more theories coming. I want to talk about more characters and kind of breakdown videos. So if you've liked this stuff so far, there's definitely more coming. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.